Welcome back to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. Glad to be here with you. I am Dr. Stephen Cabral, board certified doctor of naturopathy and founder of the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute. For all of the new people listening to the show, because it's been amazing over the past couple of weeks, we've literally almost doubled listenership, which is fantastic. I want to welcome you. We appreciate you being here and just letting you know that this particular podcast is for everyone in the integrative health-based space. That means if you're a chiropractor, personal trainer, yoga instructor, esthetician, integrative health practitioner, etc., we welcome you. We're glad to have you here. And our real goal is to make you more successful, not change who you are, not change what you do, but simply be able to really get more people to know about you, make sure that your business is positioned for success, and for you to really enjoy doing what you love. That's what it's all about. Get paid a very good salary or a very good compensation for the value that you bring to other people. And when you're bringing a lot of value to other people, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to have a great career, both financially, monetarily, and then also just building something you can be proud of. So that's what we hope to do here on our Monday shows. It is bringing you real world actionable tips that you can actually implement, hopefully within just a week to 2 weeks at a time, and begin to see a real difference. And then on Thursday, we actually talk with real world practitioners that have all sorts of wildly varying success in their field, meaning some people got started a year ago and here's where they're at and how successful they've become. And then some people have been doing it for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and they've had really monumental success. And it's how can we begin to learn from all these people? So that's what the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast is all about. We love hearing all your different comments. So do feel free to leave them right on YouTube or Instagram and any other ideas for future shows. All right, let's get into today's show. Today's show is setting the right price for your services. Now, if we ever do a topic that we've maybe, just touched upon in the past, we like to go a little bit more in depth. So as people listen to the previous 105 shows, we want to make sure that we now up-level people's education as well. So definitely take your time, go back, listen to previous shows if you choose to, totally up to you. But what I want to talk about right now is this is a really, really important topic. And the reason is that you have to get the pricing right. So, and I'll explain what that means and why today, but your pricing has to do with everything that you offer, right? So let's say that you're a personal trainer. You might have pricing for your small group, for your one-on-ones, for your virtual training, or just kind of done for you programs where there's no real back and forth talking. They're purchasing a ebook or PDF or something like that online. And what you want to understand is that you have to take this piece by piece. You can't just offer, I think we all know this, but it's at least worth repeating that if you're doing small group and you're charging, let's say $150 for a one-on-one, you can't charge that $150 to have someone be a part of a group of 12 people or 6 people, right? Because they're going to say, well, why would I pay the one-on-one fee to be part of a small group? Now, you might charge $500 for a one-on-one, and then you can charge $150 for a small group. But there has to be what's called an ascension-based ladder. So this is really important. First part, again, this is kind of it'll be definitely a topic for a different podcast. But in your business, if you're going to have different pricing structures, then you're going to want to have some type of ascension-based model. And the very top of that model would be typically your highest priced service, which for most people listening to this show is going to be one-on-one. That's where you can provide the very best value. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, I believe that my courses and my PDFs and my workouts can provide a lot of value. And I'm not saying they can't. But when someone doesn't get to speak with you and tell you about their own situation that they're in and how a plan might be able to be tweaked for them, it's not really the highest and best value. Now, again, we have different pricing structures to allow people to always be able to work with you. And so that's the nice thing about it. I know that, and I'll share kind of my fees in just a moment, but I know that when I was beginning to raise my prices per appointment, I always made sure that there was something at different levels so that no one was really pushed out, right? So just begin to think about that. I'm going to be teaching you about a comparative market analysis in just one second. But what I like people to do, whether you're part of our business mentorship experience or you're part of IHP or something that where we teach a lot, is you want to begin to look at your foundation of who you are so that you can do a real comparative market analysis. And I'll explain again what that means in a moment. But first of all, you want to just say, are you doing, in person or not? Because that matters. You want to look at your education experience. You want to look at your certifications. You want to look at your experience working with clients or in the field. You want to look at any internships that you've done. Did you gain experience there? And of course, you want to look at your results. Results matter. They really do, right? I mean, they honestly do. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be able to justify whatever you choose to for your pricing based on your results. You're not basing it on an hour with you. I'm going to get to that in a moment. You're basing it on results, right? Because you could work 10 hours with someone else, but if I can get you the same results in 1 hour, well, can I just charge 10 times the amount of someone else? Well, maybe even more because the results come faster, right? So it's just something to think about. I really want to turn this whole pricing paradigm on its head, that there is no set price, right? You decide to set the price based on, though, what's called a comparative market analysis. So let's get into that now. So I did this way back in the day when I opened my first location in Boston, Massachusetts. Even before that, in 2002 or 2003, I went out on my own, couple years working at a very high-end health club, and I said, well, okay, I'm going to start doing in-home personal training. And so the first thing I did was, this is back in the early 2000s, I went on, back then it wasn't really Google as much. It was more like, I don't know, Yahoo, and there was Google, don't get me wrong, and some others, but it didn't break out yet. And so I went on a search engine, and I just basically looked up what other people are doing for in-home personal training in the area, right? Good place to start. And I would look at what are people charging in Boston, Massachusetts for in-home personal training. And I saw that it varied widely. It was $50 an hour for some people and $250 an hour for some people. And so I would actually call some of them. I said, hey, what do I get for $250 for an hour? And then this person, what do I get for $50 an hour? And it didn't seem to make too much of a difference what the price range was. What I got was a workout at home, right? This is what I was looking to do. So this is basically saying, hey, what are other people doing? And then that was a customized program for me. And that's about it. Some people did bring the equipment, some people didn't, but it wasn't wildly different. So what you're going to want to do is just say first, okay, what service am I providing? Is it local? Right? Or is it virtual? Because if it's virtual, well, then you have your whole world. You have the whole world, right? You have the entire internet, and you're not going to search, of course, every business. What you want to do is really this. You then want to narrow it down. Does this person have the same experience as I do, right? Is this person offering the same type of package that I am? Meaning, back then, when I was doing nutrition and personal training, well, a lot of personal trainers didn't offer nutrition. I did. A lot of personal trainers weren't offering a full, functional movement screen. So I was. A lot of people weren't doing postural analysis. A lot of people weren't doing, what else was I doing back then? I had specialties in some yoga and golf. Nutrition was really the bigger one because I could write programs for people. And then I'm trying to think of a couple of flexibility, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, just things like that. But some of the things didn't matter to people. So that wasn't really like a feather in my cap. That didn't really matter. So what I'm trying to say is this. You're looking at what are your specialties, right? Can you charge a little bit more for that? What are you offering? And what's your experience overall? So that's that. So what I want to do and what I want to share with you is you want to look at what's like the lowest price that people are charging, not the bottom of the barrel, but what's the typical low for your industry. And let's say it is personal training, right? So personal training, yeah, it's probably $50 to $150, like in person or in-home personal training. That's about right, $49 to like $149. Now, don't get me wrong, some personal trainers charge $250 an hour. I know in New York, a lot of people charge $400 an hour. So, but I'd say it's between 150. I'd say it's between 50 and 150. Like that's really important. So that's essentially the comparative market analysis, and that price range I'm just throwing this out there, is going to work for most industries. So that's like 50 to 150 for like a hairstylist, a higher end hairstylist, 50 to 150 for an esthetician, for a massage therapist, for a personal trainer, for one-on-one yoga. That's basically the price range. And then when you move to like, let's say acupuncturist, well, I think you'll probably find between like $100 and $200. I think that's probably the range, or maybe $75 to $200. I think for health coaching, $50 to $150. I think that's pretty solid. I think that's pretty fair. I might even say closer to maybe $100 to $200 for a lot of health coaches now. What else can I tell you? Chiropractors, a lot of times, are just taking insurance. Let's say that you're a naturopath not taking insurance. Your fee is probably going to be $150 to $250 to $300. So all you're going to do is look for that price range. Now, I'll tell you exactly what else goes into this. So as you're developing the price range, you need to also for yourself not just say, oh, well, this is what everyone else is doing, so it's what I'm going to do as well. No, because I want to tell you here's an example. So when I was doing in-home personal training, I didn't realize at the time, I didn't think about it, but I, of course, had to leave time between sessions, right? So I was walking from like apartment building to apartment building, and I would leave myself a half hour between appointments just to walk. It was, by the way, it was exhausting. It really was. Like, I look back at it now. So I would do my own workout, of course, every day. But if I worked like 6 at-home personal training clients a day, which was pretty normal, I'm on my feet for all of those appointments. Then I'm walking all over the city. I didn't use a pedometer back then. There were certainly no Oura Rings, Apple Watches, Whoop straps, Fitbits, et cetera, Withings. I must have been doing like 18,000 to like 25,000 steps a day. It was exhausting. It really was. But anyway, I knew I had to leave all that time between appointments. But if you think about it, I typically did an hour appointment for those at-home appointment sessions. And the reason why it was more than my 45-minute appointment is that I need time to set up the equipment. I would typically have just some equipment that a client would have, and then I may bring my own bands or things like that. But most clients had their own equipment. So what I would say is, it took me an extra half hour commute time. So when I would look at that, I'm saying, well, I'm really doing 2 sessions, right? I'm really doing 2 hours of work for that 1 hour of session. You can maybe make an argument that it's really like 90 minutes of time, but the first appointment, definitely there's a half hour, and sometimes there's just a natural gap between them. So, I typically said whatever I was charging, right? And this is why we always recommend for a lot of health coaches or personal trainers or acupuncturists or estheticians, et cetera, you really want to do back-to-back appointments, because the time in between is just wasted time. Like for personal training, the half hour between or 45 minutes between, it's wasted time. You're not getting compensated for that time. So let's just say I was charging $100 an hour for an at-home session. That was basically my going rate. Like it'd be $100 to sometimes $120 if it was a longer commute. But let's just say it was $100. I wasn't being paid $100 for that session. You might say, well, how does that work? I was being paid $50. And that's because I also, even though you're not training the client, you are commuting to their home, right? And so if you're commuting to their home, you wouldn't be doing that if you weren't actually doing that session, right? So and then let's say you don't have a session afterwards. Well, then you're commuting back to your home again. So that's a half hour each way. And you might say, well, it's only 20 minutes. Okay. Are you really trying to time this to the second, or are you giving yourself a little bit of a buffer, right? So your time may vary, but maybe it's 45 minutes, right? When I was living in Providence, Rhode Island, when I was working in Boston from 2000 to like 2004, and that was 90 minutes each way. So I was spending an extra 3 hours of my time for, maybe 8 sessions that I was working that day. And so when you look at that, well, I was getting paid for 8 hours, but I was working 3 more, right? And there was probably a little bit time in between. So again, this is important for us to take into consideration. So that $100 per hour is really $50, right? So I was making $50 per hour. Or if you want, you can add up all of your appointments for the day, and the amount of time is dedicated to that day. And you could do the math that way too. And maybe it's more advantageous. But I want you to take that into consideration. All right. So take that into consideration. We teach all of our IHPs that if you're doing 3 to 4 sessions, 3 to 4 appointments a day for as a virtual health coach, that's going to be somewhere around our people do anywhere from 10 to 20 appointments per week, which is, by the way, is plenty, especially when you're being compensated $100 to $200 per hour, sometimes more, as we teach in packages. You want to just look at that overall. You're probably going to need an hour to an hour and a half prep time for 4 appointments. An hour is probably adequate for 3. So you just kind of want to take all that into consideration for your time, right? That's part of your time. It does matter. And then if you add email into that, well, you might do a half hour to an hour of email. So just all of this gets taken into account. I just want you to know that what I do for all of my appointments is that I add in 30 minutes, right? So I add in 30 minutes if it's a weekly appointment. If it's a once a month appointment, I basically double the time. So if you're meeting with a client once a month, you probably want to add in 15 minutes a week for that client. That would take care of any email follow-ups they have. It would take care of reading any additional at-home lab tests if you do at-home lab testing. And it would take care of like writing up a new plan, right? Kind of like all averaged into one. So you would just say it's double, right? So let's say we have a lot of our IHPs start off at $180 per appointment. Again, not like you want to look at $180 as part of a package. I'm not going to go in depth on that today. These are things that we teach at a deeper level, not for today's podcast. But we want to understand that $180, you shouldn't feel bad about charging that, because that's really probably $90 per hour, because you're going to need 15 minutes a week for your follow-ups, for reading anything, developing protocols, tweaks, recommendations, etc. So if you look at that, you're making about $90 per hour. But that's a good thing, because then you're getting compensated for your email time too. And that's why you have to be careful as a health coach charging $50 an hour, because you're really making $25 an hour. Okay. So just, again, take this into consideration. It's really, really important. So here's what I do. If you're first starting out, if you're a beginner in this field, nothing wrong with that. We're all beginners for sure, right? We all start from the bottom. And all you want to be able to do then is you say, okay, here's the low in the market, virtual or in person, and here is the high. And you're probably going to want to end up right around the middle range, right? I don't know that you've earned it yet to charge at the high. You're welcome to. It's your world, your life. You do whatever you choose. And you don't want to be at the bottom, because the bottom, you're really working with the clients that are choosing based on price. And I just tell you from 25 years experience, you want to be able to show value, work with clients that appreciate that extra time that you're going to put in. If you go the lowest price, they're sometimes expecting the best service at the lowest possible price. And that's a race to the bottom. I would be very careful with that. The goal is always to provide 10 times more value than what you get compensated for. That was always my belief. So if the going range is between, let's say, $50 and $150 in your field, probably charge around $90. Maybe around $99, right? Don't break the 100 quite yet. And then what we always did, and this went for everyone on my team, and I've had dozens of people on my team, in terms of all my 2 different locations in Boston, we literally had over 20 people or more on the team, is that whenever we would get one person to about 70% full, like with clients, we would always then be able to then increase the price to their real fair market value. We didn't increase it just to jack up prices. We would never do that. It was actually for all new clients coming in. So new clients then would, we might go from, let's just say, I can give you a real world example. This is a long time ago, but we were charging $79 per session for a 45-minute personal training session or nutrition session. And then that got moved up to $89 when a person got 70% full. And it always worked great. And then after that, it went up to $99. So you can kind of do it however you want. But I just wanted to share one more thing with you, is that, when I started, I've had different iterations of my career. But when I was working with people from an integrative health, functional medicine, naturopathic perspective, I started $180 per hour. And then after that, I went to $290 the next year. And then after that, I went to $490 and I increased from there. But I love to create jobs in this industry. It's one of my favorite things. And I like to be able to help as many people as possible. So I brought on health coaches and nutritionists onto my team. And when they came on, they then charged the $180. So we always had a price range to help people no matter where they came in, because at no point do I want to be, that person refuses to work with me because of the money or whatever it might be. It's not about that, but it is that I want to be able to provide the highest level of value. I love being able to provide a concierge-based service, meaning listen, I want to do everything I can to help you succeed. It's always been my philosophy. Before I wasn't able to charge for that because I was starting out, But now I'm able to get referrals, and I want to be able to provide such a high level of service that you're blown away, that you want to tell other people about it, and of course that you get the results. So, but at the same time, I'm not going to turn people away. I'm going to help them. So what I do is I have other than health coaches at the $180 level, and that always allows people to be able to get that service that they want and they need. So hopefully this has been helpful. And of course, we always love hearing your comments. There's always follow-ups to every podcast. So I'm sure we'll be talking about how to create packages and all those types of things in the future. Take care, everyone. Have an amazing day. And if you haven't reviewed the show yet, if you're new to the show, we would love for you to do that right on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Take care.